Hello students and welcome. This is your lecture on chapter number 6. This time we're going to be talking about micronutrients. We've already gone over all three macros. Now it's time to get into micronutrients, starting with, of course, vitamins, micronutrients with macro power. So this is chapter 6. That is where you will want to follow along and supplement what I'm saying from your textbook. All right, so let's start with the basic question. What are vitamins? They are, like I said, micronutrients. They contain carbon. They are essential in regulating multiple body processes. And they can be fat soluble. We have covered this concept already. They can also be water soluble. And here are 4 of the roles that they typically will serve. They will either be considered energy generators in that they help to convert food into energy. And with each of these, you see some of the attached lists of vitamins. You don't need to memorize all of this, but just knowing these 4 basic classifications will help, and you'll see where each of the vitamins falls. So we have energy generators. We have tissue guardians. They help keep body structures healthy. Blood boosters, they help to optimize blood health, and antioxidants, and they help to protect against oxidative damage. Let's start with your fat-soluble vitamins. We've gone over this before. That's vitamins A, D, E, and K. These dissolve in fat, and they are then absorbed in the intestines along with dietary fat. These can also be stored in the body for use at a later time. Now, being that they can be stored in the body, so that means we will hold on to them, they can potentially build up to toxic levels. Now, remember, with anything, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, and with vitamins, that is certainly the case. If you take too much, especially of these fat-soluble vitamins, you run the risk of building up to a toxic level. So megadosing of A and D can lead to death. And how can you megadose on something? Well, usually that comes from using supplements. Typically, when eating food, there's not enough in food, or we can't eat enough food and fit it all inside of our bellies to get to toxic levels. But if you megadose, if you use supplements and don't really know what you're doing and are just taking tons and tons of things like vitamin A, vitamin D, that toxicity level can have ramifications all the way up to including death. These are going to be found in some of your fatty foods. Your diet needs to contain the average amount required over a period of time. And here you see, now I'm not going to sit here, read this to you, go all through it. That's something that you can do. And look, guys, I'm not expecting you to memorize all of these vitamins and all of the functions that they serve. This is more to get the idea of where they are classified in terms of fat soluble, water soluble, and then knowing where you can go for your resources. So we'll talk about some of the major vitamins here in this lecture, which is good. It's important to know those. But there's so many vitamins, and same thing with minerals. It's going to be really difficult to memorize everything, and that's not something that even as a professional that you need to do. Now, if someone has questions about something, you need to be resourceful. You need to know where you can go. You need to know where you can obtain that information, and this is a great place to start. You can use these slides here from this lecture, which you have the attached PowerPoints to go with, or you could always go into your textbook. You could always look these things up online from good sources, and that's going to be helpful for you as a practitioner. Memorization, not so much. So here's where you see vitamin A, vitamin D, and again, we'll cover some of these a little bit later. Let's move now to the water-soluble vitamins. We've got vitamin C and the B vitamins group. These can, of course, be dissolved in water, and they are absorbed very easily through the intestinal wall. Now, one of the big differences, though, is that they cannot be stored in large amounts in the body, which is a good thing when it comes to toxicity, but it's not such a great thing if you're not getting enough of them. Right? Because if you can't store them, then it's very difficult for them to build up to a point where they might poison you. And that's really what we're talking about when we say toxicity levels. Toxic means poisonous, really, just in layman's terms. So building up to a point where it could actually be harmful. Supplements, however, if you take enough of them, again, this mega dosing and just over and over and over again, this of course can lead to some toxicity, but again, you'd have to really go out of your way to make this happen. Just like with fat soluble, you should be getting adequate amounts on a regular basis. And again, vitamins, minerals, these types of things, you should get them from your diet ideally, not from supplements. Supplements are there in case you are not available to get them from your diet. And here you see, just like we saw with the charts for the other, a list of water-soluble vitamins, the recommended intake for them, what foods you can get them from, and then some of the toxicity and deficiency symptoms. So toxicity meaning too much, deficiency meaning not enough, and either way is bad. That's why it's important that you get the recommended amounts every day. All right, preserving vitamins. Vitamins are vulnerable. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that they can be easily destroyed, and they can be destroyed by a number of means. Water. Water actually can destroy the potency of vitamins. So try to use little water when cooking, because putting food in water, especially if you're talking vegetables, something like that, that can actually strip away the nutrients. Instead, it is better when it comes from a food preparation standpoint to steam your food versus actually putting it in water to boil it. Speaking of boiling, heat. Heat, vitamin B and C in particular, those are going to be very susceptible to heat. So when cooking them, cook only until they are tender. Don't overcook them, because again, you will strip the nutrient content right out of that food source. Light. Light's another one. B vitamins are killed by light. And that's one of the reasons why you've probably seen different types of gallon containers. And you notice that milk comes in an opaque container, a container that is not completely clear, not completely see-through. It's like almost like a cloudy, and some that are very solid color, solid plastic on the outside. The reason is because milk contains B vitamins, and those vitamins can actually be stripped away and destroyed by light. So by putting them in those types of containers, the light is not going to damage them. It's not going to strip out that nutrient content. So in case you've ever wondered why that was, or if you've seen like clear water bottles before and then realized that, hey, there is a difference with milk, this would be your explanation. Air. Vitamin A, D, E, K, and B can be killed by air, and the key here is cut right before cooking or package them up as soon as possible. So don't leave them out too long, otherwise you might start to lose some of the nutrient content. And then pH disturbances, baking soda, the vegetables to retain color, vitamins B, K, and C can be killed by an alkaline environment. So really a lot of things can affect the way that we get our vitamins and how potent they are, how much of the nutrient content actually is maintained in the food. Now let's start looking at functions of certain vitamins and how they help us with different processes in our body. And we're going to look at this one first. Vitamin A protects our sight, so this has an impact on vision. Now once again, A, D, E, and K, those are your fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamin A is fat-soluble. And the active form of vitamin A is something called retinol, which is actually found in the retina of your eye. Vitamin A, therefore, is critical to maintaining healthy vision. So there you see, there's the retina along the back side there. If you look at the top right corner of the eyeball that they're showing you, there's the retina, there's retinol in there. So let's look at the functions of vitamin A. Once again, very important to maintain good, healthy vision. Cell differentiation is impacted, the process by which cells mature and specialize. So not all cells do the same thing, and vitamin A helps to make them mature appropriately and take on the proper function for where it is in the body that they're going to be operating. It also helps with the development of T lymphocytes of the immune system, so helps with immune health. Sperm production and fertilization, obviously important for reproductive purposes. Bone growth. And now let's move to beta-carotene. Carotenoids like beta-carotene, these are known to protect cell membranes against damage. They also can help to enhance the immune system and protect skin from damage by ultraviolet light. They also can help to protect eyes from damage. And when it comes to vitamin A, how much should we take? What should we be getting? Well, here we go. Recommended daily allowance is 900 micrograms, and micrograms is going to be how it is going to be put into the food. That's the measurement increment. 900 for men, 700 a day for women. Where can you get it? So what can help us with our vision? What are some things you can eat to help maintain good eye health and some of the other things we talked about, including the lymphocytes and helping with the immune system, reproductive health? Well, these are good from animal sources like liver and eggs, also some plant sources like your dark green vegetables, orange vegetables, and some of your yellow fruits and vegetables. So oranges, dark green leafy spinach, that sort of thing. And again, you can always go back to those charts that we saw a couple slides ago that we didn't really go through. But again, if you're looking for good lists of where things can be found and what you can use, what you can eat in order to obtain them, you've got a great resource right there. Here you see another little more comprehensive list. Some sweet potatoes, obviously that's a great source. Pumpkins, so more of the orange vegetables here. Instant oatmeal, actually, look at this, with apples and cinnamon, so that's even got lots of sugar in it, but great source of vitamin A. Cooked carrots, peas and carrots, raisin bran, you even get some ricotta cheese, some broccoli, all very, very good sources for vitamin A. All right, so we're talking about what happens if there's not enough, but let's talk about toxicity as well. Now, vitamin A is highly toxic, especially from single nutrient supplements. So if you just take a straight up vitamin A supplement, again, with it being fat soluble, it is something that can be easily stored, so it can build up to levels that could be harmful to you. Birth defects and permanent damage to the liver and the eyes can result. So that's one of the interesting things. If you don't have enough, you don't have good eye health. But if you get too much, you can actually start messing up your liver and your eyes. Now, deficiency, so if you don't have enough, night blindness is the most common symptom of vitamin A deficiency. Other symptoms from a deficiency of this particular vitamin include impaired immunity, so immune system is affected, stunted bone growth, and reproductive system disorders. Also, increased risk for illness and infections, again, with it being a crucial part of your immune system health. You could see where some of these issues would become problematic. And blindness, so just straight up blindness, not just night blindness. So you can't have too much, you can't have too little, you got to get it right in the middle, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? This vitamin A is just right. Hit those recommended dietary allowance amounts. All right, vitamin D. This is one you hear a lot about out there. Vitamin D, it says vitamin D guards our bones. It is, once again, one of the fat-soluble vitamins. It can be synthesized by the body, so it can be created by the body with exposure to ultraviolet light from the sun. So actually just going outside and getting a little bit of sunlight, and well, you say fresh air, but it's not about the air, it's about the sunlight, as a matter of fact. Your body can actually create some vitamin D from that. Now for me, personally, with just my fair skinned complexion, getting a little bit of sun is good, but there's also some potential risks for that as well. So diet is a good source as well. But it is a hormone since it's synthesized in one location and it acts in another. And that's one of the defining characteristics of hormones. So what does it do? What are the functions of vitamin D? Vitamin D is required for calcium and phosphorus absorption, so actually being able to absorb those elements, and helps to regulate your blood calcium levels, which in turn is necessary for bone calcification, so hardening of bone, building better bone health. How much? How much should we get? Well, no recommended daily allowance for vitamin D. Okay, average intake values range from 5 to 15 micrograms a day, depending on age and gender. And this is assuming that someone gets not enough sun. That's why it's hard to determine this. If you're someone that's outside a lot, well, you might not need any really additional from the diet when it comes to vitamin D. If you're someone that does not, you might need a little bit more. So this is why this one is a difficult vitamin in particular to kind of ballpark the amount that you should take in. Extreme northern and southern latitudes, and no, I'm not talking about where we are, they receive inadequate sun in the winter. This is like your North and South Pole, that 30 days of night when there's no sun literally at all for days upon days. That's going to be problematic when it comes to vitamin D and sun exposure. So those are areas that you would imagine if people are living there, they might have some problems when it comes to adequate vitamin D amounts. Here's something else. Vitamin D synthesis is decreased in older adults, so they do not synthesize vitamin D quite as well from exposure to the sun. And folks with much darker skin, so highly pigmented skin, they also do not derive the same amount of benefit when it comes to the synthesis of vitamin D. All right, so where can we get it from? Most foods naturally contain very little vitamin D. Most vitamin D is obtained from fortified foods, so foods that have had it added into it, such as milk. Milk is a great source for it. Vegetarians that do not consume any dairy, you can see where this is going, they can receive it from the sun, from fortified soy products, so alternative products that don't contain any dairy but have had the vitamin D added directly into it, or, of course, there's always the option of going straight to supplements. There you see some sources here. Some canned salmon, delicious, right? Canned mackerel, so these canned fishes, there's some decent sources for it. Look at milk here. So milk, 2% milk, non-fat milk. You look, they both actually have the same amount of vitamin D in them. Key difference is the amount of fat in the milk, and we discussed that in our fats chapter. Soy milk, which is fortified. Cheerios cereal, cornflake cereal, these have a little bit of vitamin D in them as well. So what about too much of it, right? We're talking toxicities and deficiencies today. Well, what's great about your skin and the sun and all that is you can't get too much of it from the sun. Your skin will limit that amount. However, if you go overboard on the vitamin supplementation side of things, well then yes, that is possible. And that can result in high blood calcium levels, which can have some symptoms manifesting such as weakness, a loss of appetite, diarrhea, some mental confusion, vomiting, and calcium formation in soft tissues, so liver, kidneys, and heart, so you can actually get some calcium deposits on those organs, which, as you might imagine, is not a very, very good situation to be in. And likewise, what about if I don't get enough? Well, if you've ever heard of something called rickets, which is not something you hear very much these days, but rickets in children, that usually leads to some skeletal deformities such as bow-leggedness or knock-kneed, so either tremendous knee valgus or knee varus, if we're going to be more technical in the way we describe that, but being knock-kneed or bow-legged, and again, that's a result of the bones just not being strong enough, and that's we're talking rickets here. Osteomalacia, those soft bones in adults, that's what that is known as, osteomalacia. So that's if you don't get enough vitamin D. So again, with all these, get the right amount. Sticking in the fat-soluble vitamins categories here, let's go with vitamin K. Fat soluble, stored in the liver, so that's where this one specifically is going to be located. It is required for blood coagulation. It is also considered a coenzyme, a compound that combines with an inactive enzyme to activate an enzyme. Okay, so it works together. So that and another inactive enzyme, you put them together and boom, something happens here. There's an activation. There you see a little visual depiction of vitamin K acting as a coenzyme when being combined with, and then it starts to work the way it needs to. The chemical reaction can take place when it works along with that inactive enzyme. All right, so let's talk about what we should get. All right, again, vitamin K does protect against blood loss, which we don't want. There is no recommended amount for vitamin K. Average intake values are 120 micrograms for men and 90 for women. Some sources: green leafy vegetables. It's funny how many great things can come from that particular source. Soybeans, canola oil. It's also produced actually by intestinal bacteria in the body. There you see some spinach, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, some raw spinach, lettuce, soybeans, canola oil, all different places and methods of obtaining some vitamin K. Too much? Well, no known side effects, so that's a good thing here. Not enough? Well, if you don't have enough, again, with the blood coagulation component, well, if you don't have enough of it, then your blood clotting ability, especially in cases of injury, that is going to be impeded, which is bad because that could lead to excessive bleeding and losing too much blood, which is a really bad situation. Now, this can occur with diseases that disturb the absorption of fat in the small intestine, so that's where you might see this deficiency in vitamin K. Things like Crohn's disease and irritable bowel syndrome are diseases that can actually cause this problem to be significant. Injection is given to infants due to the lack of intestinal bacteria as well. Now let's talk about something called antioxidants. Many metabolic processes involve the oxidation reactions, and when a reaction occurs, that can produce some harmful free radicals, so some things that actually break away. So oxidation is the exchange of oxygen. Break down some terms here. Free radicals are atoms that steal electrons from stable molecules, and these can actually cause some cell damage. So having those free radicals out there, the harmful ones, is not great. Antioxidants are chemicals that protect cells against damage from oxidation. Antioxidant is against oxidation. That's a very simple way of defining it for you. This will include your vitamins E and vitamin C, any carotenoids, and selenium, which is a trace mineral as well. Those are all considered antioxidants. Here you can see the free radicals being created here, and then of course antioxidants can come and stabilize them. Once again, free radicals, very unstable atoms. They are produced by those oxidation reactions that are happening in the cells. They can also be produced by pollution, ultraviolet light, and other toxic substances. What do? Well, they can cause some damage to cell membranes, LDLs, cell proteins, and genetic material like DNA. Antioxidants, on the other hand, they work to stabilize these free radicals and not let them wreak this type of havoc on your bodies. Vitamin E. Vitamin E maintains healthy cells. Again, it's a fat-soluble vitamin stored in fat tissue and in cell membranes as well. This will protect against your free radical damage, protects LDLs, red blood cells, and the cells that are lining the lungs. It is critical for development of muscles and nerves. So yeah, you want some vitamin E, that's for sure. 15 milligrams per day is what they recommend, and some places you can get it from. Vegetable oils, nuts, seeds, wheat germs, soybeans. Here's a nice little list for you. Some Kashi heart-to-heart oatmeal cereal, some sunflower seeds, mixed nuts, believe it or not, marinara sauce, avocados, canola oil, peanuts, peanut butter, spinach, fresh spinach, all great places to obtain some vitamin E. How about if there's too much? It's uncommon. If you don't get enough, well, that's also uncommon. So that's all good news here. However, if you do develop a deficiency, that can result in ruptured red blood cells, which can lead to anemia. Moving right along here to vitamin C. Its chemical name is ascorbic acid. Functions of vitamin C are that it is an antioxidant. It re-energizes vitamin E if it is oxidized, protects against airborne pollutants, and synthesizes collagen, which is a protein in your teeth, bones, skin, tendons, and blood vessels. It also can help to prevent the disease scurvy. Yes, here we can see scurvy, which is not something that we see typically very much these days. It's mostly told in old pirate stories. But scurvy has symptoms including brittle bones, weak blood vessels, the inability to heal, your teeth falling out, bloody gums, nasty stuff there. That's scurvy. It also, and this is why they always recommend that you take some as you are beginning to feel ill, it can enhance the immune system. Now, it does not prevent colds, but if you are taking vitamin C when you get a cold, it can actually help to limit the duration of said cold. It also enhances the absorption of iron in the body. You see some scurvy, yar. Nice little picture for you to ruminate on there. Those teeth look wonderful. All right, how much should we get? 90 milligrams a day for men, 75 a day for women. Smokers need more, okay, because they're doing some damage to their lungs, so they're going to need a little bit extra when it comes to vitamin C in order to compensate for the damage they're doing. You could always stop smoking, though. That would be my recommendation. Some sources: fresh fruits and vegetables. Cooking, however, will destroy your vitamin C. So eating things raw vegetables and raw fruits, not cooked up, are going to be more beneficial. There you see, look at that. I know we always talk about oranges, and oranges are on the list, and they're like the fourth one down here. Grapefruit juice, unsweetened, of course, is right above it. But look at that, bell peppers, green bell peppers will give you a whole heck of a lot of vitamin C. So those green peppers, that's something good to have in your diet. All right, what about too much? What happens if we overdo the vitamin C? Megadoses can cause some nausea, diarrhea, and nosebleeds. So getting a little too much, taking a little too much in the vitamins or something. Scurvy is, of course, a disease of deficiency. Again, that bleeding gums, loss of teeth, weakness. Now, your B vitamins, your energy generators. All right, the B vitamins. These are going to be water-soluble vitamins, especially important for energy metabolism, and this is why it's being classified as B vitamins, the energy generators. Now, B vitamins don't contain energy, but they do act as coenzymes to help release energy that we will get in our diets from those energy sources in the macronutrients. Again, we're talking carbs, fats, and proteins. So B vitamins are really, really important here. There you see a nice list of them. No need for me to read them all to you, but this is the B vitamin list. We'll break down the importance of them here. Thiamine, or vitamin B1, is a coenzyme that is required for carbohydrate metabolism. Coenzyme for the metabolism of some amino acids as well. So we've got that when it comes to proteins. And when it comes to good food sources, we're talking some enriched food and whole grains. These are going to be great sources for some vitamin B1 or thiamine. Beriberi, this is a deficiency disease that results in muscle wasting and some nerve damage. So if you don't get enough, this is a disease that can manifest itself. Beriberi. It affects heart muscle in the later stages as well. So that's obviously a pretty bad situation. There you go. Some whole grain total cereal has a whole lot of it. Pork loin, ham, so some meat sources, some legumes there, black beans, green peas, spaghetti, white rice, tuna. Good sources for B1. B2, or riboflavin. It's a part of a coenzyme involved in protecting against oxidation damage. Good sources for this include egg yolks, milk, and some enriched grain products. Ariboflavinosis, a riboflavin deficiency disease, leads to sore throat, swollen mucous membranes. And here you go, some sources for B2. Right, whole grain total cereal seems like that's a pretty good source for your B vitamins. Chili con carne on the list as well. Look, you got some shiitake mushrooms. All good places to get some riboflavin. Niacin, another B vitamin. Coenzyme assisting with metabolism of carbs and fats. Good sources here, meat, fish, poultry, enriched bread products. Toxicity of this can result from supplements, so you can't overdo it on the supplement side of things. Pellagra is a severe niacin deficiency. So it can lead to skin rash, diarrhea, mental impairments, and in very severe cases, death is also possible. Here's where you can get some niacin in your diet. You've got fresh tuna, fresh salmon, fresh halibut, so lots of good seafood sources. Whole grain total, there it is right up at the top. Beef, spaghetti with pasta sauce, some shiitake mushrooms back on the list here, and of course some chicken breast, little poultry for you. Vitamin B6. B6, part of a coenzyme for more than 100 enzymes in protein metabolism. So this one, pretty important in the protein metabolism world. Good sources here, enriched cereals. You probably guess what's going to be up near the top of the next list. Liver, fish, poultry, starchy vegetables. If you take too much, that can result in nerve damage and skin lesions. Nasty stuff. And if you don't get enough, may increase a homocysteine, which is a non-protein amino acid in the blood, which can increase the risk for blood clots in the arteries and the risk of myocardial infarction or a heart attack and stroke. So you don't want to have there be an increased likelihood for blood clotting. Not good at all. Those obviously, myocardial infarction and stroke can be life-altering or life-ending. Eat your total, folks. This feels like a commercial. There you see some seafood sources, garbanzo beans, baked potato with the skin on, of course, and a few other good sources there. Folate. This is involved in DNA synthesis and amino acid metabolism to some extent. It is critical for cell division of very early embryos. So when a woman becomes pregnant, those first few weeks of pregnancy, folate is going to be super, super important in the proper and healthy development of the embryo as it goes through the stages of fully developing. Ready-to-eat cereals are a good source, some enriched bread products. Toxicity can actually mask a vitamin B12 deficiency. And there you see some sources. Lentils, spinach, broccoli, a lot of good green stuff, spaghetti, white rice, bagels. But keep in mind, even though these are sources of some of these vitamins, it doesn't mean that they're like highly recommended for you to have in your diet for other reasons. Yes, you get some good stuff in them, but like a big giant bagel that's 300 calories and then you throw in all kinds of cream cheese and stuff on. Keep in mind what we learned about our macronutrients as well. This is why a balanced, varied diet is super, super important. Putting all these things together in a way that makes the most sense for good, proper overall health. B12. B12. You hear a lot about B12. It is a part of a coenzyme for blood formation. It is required for nerve functioning. It is required for homocysteine breakdown. We just talked about homocysteine, and again, if there's a lot of that, that can lead to some significant problems including the likelihood of myocardial infarction, stroke, again because of the blood clots, and then osteoporosis as well. It's spelled incorrectly, but osteoporosis. This is found only in animal-based foods, so you can imagine that vegetarians might have a problem with obtaining enough B12. And results of deficiency here: low energy, fatigue, shortness of breath. Pernicious anemia, a B12 deficiency, is lacking a protein to help with the absorption on B12. That's some New England clam chowder. Good source. New England style is, of course, the creamy variety of it. That's the white, not the red. Special K, when it comes to cereal, is up there. Some Alaskan cooked crab. You got some soy milk that's fortified, ground beef, salmon, yogurt, cottage cheese. Again, look at these. Most of these are animal sources, so this is tough for people that are vegetarians. That's why we said when we talked a little bit about vegetarians last week, especially in reference to protein, it's just very careful planning is needed in order to make sure that you get everything that you need from your diet. Continuing on with the B vitamin family here, pantothenic acid. It's a component of coenzymes for fatty acid metabolism. It is required for building new fatty acids in the body. Good sources here: chicken, beef, egg yolks, potatoes, oat cereals, tomato products. No toxicity from excess of this, and deficiencies are also pretty rare, so those are good things to hear. Biotin. It is a part of a coenzyme involved in the metabolism of carbs, fats, and proteins. So this is helpful in digestion of everything. It is important for gluconeogenesis. Not that we want gluconeogenesis to occur, but again, it is a process in our body of building new sugars from proteins usually. But again, we don't want to get to that point, but if we get into a situation where that needs to happen, you're going to want some biotin to make sure that that process goes smoothly. It has content, biotin content has been determined for very few foods, so not many places you can go to get them. Biotin deficiencies, on the other hand, are rare, so that's good to know. Choline is a vitamin-like substance. It assists in that homocysteine metabolism. It can accelerate the synthesis of acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter required for muscle contraction. You can imagine why that would be important, for our muscles to fire the way we need them to. Good sources here: milk, liver, eggs, peanuts. Deficiencies can lead to liver damage. Toxicity can result if you take in too much from supplements. Supplements is pretty much the major way to get a toxicity of pretty much all of these vitamins we've been discussing today. Speaking of supplements, since they've been an ongoing point that has been mentioned over and over, not just throughout the class, but also specifically here, because they're typically vitamin supplements. As those of you that have been in class with me for a couple months now, we learned in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, when it comes to things with the FDA, some things are not very closely regulated, and vitamins actually fall, well, supplements in general, fall into that category. Now, who might benefit from vitamin or mineral supplementation? A lot of people just take them because they think that they should, and then they follow some of those claims that are on those bottles. But really, the people that need to look at them and might be beneficial for their supplementation, that would probably be your vegetarians. That would probably be people that don't get enough variety in their diet, so they're not getting all of these great sources where they might obtain them. Those are folks that might benefit from something like supplementation. And then when can it be harmful? Well, if you are getting enough and you just keep taking it, and you take it because you think it's good, or you read some article, or you saw somebody on Instagram say, oh, take more of this vitamin, take more of that vitamin. Well, not necessarily, because it can actually poison you. Cancer. Now we're talking cancer here. A group of related diseases characterized by cells that grow out of control. That is really a very basic definition of cancer. Composed of 3 steps: the initiation, the promotion, and the progression. Factors that can increase cancer risk include tobacco use, we know that, sun exposure, I know that. If you don't know that, you should know that. Again, we want vitamin D, but too much sun exposure can also be a pretty major cancer risk. Nutrition, so the way we eat. And then, of course, environmental or occupational exposure, things like pollutants, the air quality, things that we're around, chemicals we're exposed to. And low levels of physical activity can also promote cancer growth. There you see we've got the initiation phase, a carcinogen causes mutation in the DNA of a cell. So you see that one looks a little bit off. Then you see rapidly division of that cell and genetically altering them. Cell with mutation DNA divides repeatedly in a way that it's not supposed to. And then potentially the progression, the cancer cells invade surrounding tissues and then spread to other sites in the body. And look, if it gets into the blood vessel and the bloodstream, well, then those cancer cells can spread other places and wreak havoc elsewhere. So this is, again, just some simple pictures and ways of describing this. If you've ever experienced this with a family member or yourselves, God forbid, you know that this really doesn't do any justice for the kinds of damage that cancer really does to people. And I don't just mean physically or biologically like we're looking at it now. So what does this all have to do with what we're talking here with vitamins? And really, it goes back to us saying that nutrition is a component here that is something that can be used to your benefit to at least maybe decrease the likelihood of cancer. And antioxidants from whole foods, they might actually contribute to reducing that risk of cancer. And again, antioxidants from whole foods can work by enhancing the immune system, inhibiting the growth of those cancer cells so they don't get out of control, and preventing some oxidation damage to the cells as well. Now, phytochemicals, this is our last slide of this particular presentation here, are naturally occurring chemicals in plants. They may reduce the risk of cancer, heart disease, and stroke by reducing damage from free radicals. They can be found in fruits, veggies, whole grain products, whole grains, legumes, nuts, garlic, onion, and soy products.